Without knowing your darkness, you cannot recognize your light. Carl Jung. Many of us have heard about the dark triad: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. I first heard about it in an early Jordan Peterson video, even before his podcast began. And since then, it's been mentioned quite a bit by voices like Dr. Ramani, Whitney Cummings, Esther Perel, and Chris Williamson. Each of them unpacking how these traits show up in our relationships, careers, and even the stories that we tell ourselves. And this got me thinking. No, not all of us, thank heavens, possess the dark triad. But I'm pretty sure that all of us have a dark triad. I'm talking about 3 characteristics that trip you up. Traits buried so deep that you might not even realize that they're there. That shape how you love, how you self-sabotage, and how you show up in the world. No, not a clinical diagnosis. Nothing you'd find in the DSM. That's a manual doctors use to diagnose disorders. No, this will be a self-diagnosis from the only person who has looked into the deepest trenches of the darkest chasm of your shadow. You! And today's purpose is to identify your dark triad. Let's uncover 3 of the shadows that have followed and will continue to follow you in one shape or form for the rest of your life. Instead of letting them remain a silent leech on your soul, let's give you back the power first by naming them. And yes, I'll go first. Let's dive in to the dark triad of Stefan, Daniel, Zuba, Mango, Jaguar, Prokopets. Number 1, narcissistic sensitivity. I crave recognition, but I overthink how people perceive me. I want praise, but only from certain people at the right time in the right way. I'll reread a compliment 3 times and an insult 30 times and still wonder, did they actually mean it? At the same time, I brush off amazing compliments from people I don't admire. It's selective validation and it's exhausting. I don't like this about myself. But acknowledging and accepting that whatever it is in my genetic DNA that has a predilection for this sort of behavior makes it easier for me to stomach. It makes it easier knowing that this wasn't my choice, but I can choose one path over another for how to deal with it. Remember, it's no one's choice to carry a dark triad. But this first trait, this narcissistic sensitivity, has shaped so much of my life already. Not always in big dramatic ways, but day by day, decision by decision. One awkward glance or overanalyzed silence at a time. Why do I simultaneously crave a crowd's attention, seek the spotlight, and yet live most of my life in solitude? Why do I build to be seen and then just as easily retreat to be safe? It's a hypocritical, oxymoronical, double-edged son of a business. Number 2, impulsivity. I say yes before thinking and change my life on a whim. I start something and then immediately want to burn it to the ground. It's creativity and self-sabotage. I'll risk stability for excitement. Always. Sometimes I get rewarded, and other times I feel lost, stupid, and broken. I recently took an interview where they asked me to create an infographic that encapsulated the life of Stefan. I created the visual of a winding path with headers depicting all the greatest intersections of my life. Looking at all the drastic decisions and changes I've made, all the continents and languages I've tried to live on and learn, all the careers I've pursued and left behind, all the appendages that I've lost. Many of these choices can certainly be linked to my second dark triad, impulsivity. Just to go over a few, I moved to Montreal to learn French and live in a romantic European Canadian town, even though I hated the cold. I pursued a gut decision to dedicate my life to investment banking, purely for the prestige and the paycheck. I snuck into New York for an illegal internship on Wall Street before getting kicked out of another internship in Calgary. I was hit by a car, with my eyes closed while walking into traffic. Quit everything, moved to Brazil. Quit everything, moved to China. Quit everything, tried to move to Spain, Portugal, Thailand. Jumped into a Muay Thai fight without protection. Lost a testicle. This pattern is not just restlessness. It's pathological. It sometimes pays off, but it's a lot of restarts. Number 3, depression and anxiety. Even at my best, there's a part of me, a voice inside that is still expecting something to collapse. I believe that all of us have some depression and anxiety within us. We all are on every spectrum. In my family, I trace the depression back to my grandmother, who suffered a horrific incident as a child. But that's not my story to tell. Now, my father was the third of 5 children, always the quietest, the most timid, the most introspective, and the most gentle. Dad, I know you're listening to this, and I just wanted to say that sometimes I thought of you as a puppy, innocent but scared. Of what? Only you can know. They say that the type of trauma that my grandmother went through echoes through generations. And I believe in this. It reached my father, my brother, and myself, but all in different ways. It comes and it goes. When I'm free of it, I feel like a king on top of the tallest mountain. And then it slowly creeps back and lingers for months at a time. When I was younger, it really shocked me when it approached. But now I greet it, not favorably, not unfavorably, but almost like an old acquaintance. I just try to keep making positive decisions as best I can, which I definitely don't always do. So this is my dark triad. The third one comes a-knockin', and I immediately turn to the second to do something like the first. I am very inclined to make big decisions. I've spoken about this before, but in 2024, I was at my most depressed. Then I dropped everything. And now, in 2025, I'm living through a honeymoon period of all my new choices and changes. But Lord knows how long this less anxious state will last. Anxiety to me feels like something that's more manageable with a proper routine. Depression is something that's much more mysterious to me. But that's enough about me. I share my story to give you the courage to investigate your own. And I share my story because my first dark triad is narcissism. Just remember that as much as you bottle them down, the demon of your dark triad will always want to be seen. Now, the original OG dark triad is made up of narcissism, inflated ego, the need for admiration. An example, Napoleon Bonaparte, obsessed with legacy and self-image. Remind you of anyone in today's society? Probably a lot. Unfortunately, we seem to reward this first prong of the dark triad. Number 2, Machiavellianism, manipulation and strategy over morals. Niccolo Machiavelli, the namesake himself, whose writings emphasized power over principle. A more modern example, Bernie Madoff, who orchestrated one of the largest Ponzi schemes ever. Calm, calculated, and ruthlessly strategic. His entire empire was built on deception marked as trust. That's textbook Machiavellianism. 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 Number 3, psychopathy, impulsivity, and emotional coldness. An example is Caligula, a ruthless Roman emperor known for his cruelty, unpredictability, and lack of empathy. A more modern example, Ted Bundy, calm, charming, and emotionally vacant. An even more modern example, look at some of the startup founders and tech CEOs that operate with calculated detachment. Perhaps it's simply capitalism that breeds these, let's be honest, for the most part, men, but still, we are all of us on every spectrum. Remember that you are not a textbook. Your dark triad will not look like mine or anyone else's. It's unique, fluid, messy, and alive. And only you can truly name your shadows. But while I have you, let me offer some archetypes that may help you. You might see yourself in one or many. 1, the a-hole overachiever. Narcissistic overconfidence, Machiavellian strategy, suppressed insecurity. They get praise, promotions, and applause, but feel hollow. They build empires and forget how to live. A possible example is Steve Jobs. Brilliant and exacting. He softened in later years, but never stopped obsessing over legacy. Number 2, the nice pushover. Self-erasure. Conflict avoidant manipulation, anxiety. Beloved but never chosen. Friendly but always replaceable. This person will overlook their own needs until resentment finally builds. An example would be the young Neville Longbottom. Yes, Harry Potter. Starts timid and overlooked, but slowly starts standing up for himself and eventually becomes a leader in his own way. Number 3, the secret romantic sad boy. Deep sensitivity, covert narcissism, impulsive vulnerability. This person craves connection, but sabotages it. This person will overshare and then disappear. They are deeply loyal, but emotionally chaotic. Kurt Cobain comes to mind. Poured raw emotion into his art and was loved and admired for it, but sadly couldn't escape the weight of his own mind. Number 4, the smiling strategist. High-functioning sociability, hidden control over others, shallow empathy. Hosts every party, remembers every birthday, but keeps score on everybody. Looks generous, but is playing chess. There's always an agenda. Who could this be? How about Frank Underwood from House of Cards? Charismatic and calculating, uses connection as currency. Will never forget betrayal, though might forget a favor. Number 5, the rebel mystic. Anti-authority Machiavellianism, self-righteous narcissism, flighty impulsivity, jumps jobs, cities, and scenes, starts spiritual journeys, but never finishes them, judges conformity, but fears stillness. They're mercurial, going from drug addict to monk to sex addict to political activist. A druid with a true chameleonic complex. Russell Brand could fit into this bill. A personal hero of mine. Former hedonist turned spiritual seeker. Flashes of brilliance and sometimes just flashes. Reinventions through chaos or clarity. Number 6, the ghost. Detachment, avoidance, emotional self-erasure. This person disappears when intimacy appears. They keep everyone at a manageable distance. They are the master of non-answers. J.D. Salinger wrote one of the most famous novels in history and then vanished. Chose seclusion over fame, mystery over vulnerability. My dad, in his own quiet way, fits this too. Soft-spoken, he tends to fade by his own volition, watching over speaking, feeling over showing. What would a family member or someone close to you, in brutal honesty, say is your dark triad? Once you are able to name one, does that lead you to a second? Ask yourself these questions. What do you wish you could do that you've never tried? When you imagine your ideal partner, what do you ashamedly think you need to change about yourself in order to deserve this person? What's a trait that people often compliment you for that makes you feel shallow or misrepresented? The last big decision you made on impulse, what was hiding underneath it? When do you feel safest? When you're being seen or when you're invisible? Whether you have or haven't spoken to a therapist, what would be the first thing you'd think of to say, but the last thing you'd ever voice? For me, it happened at 12 years old, when a girl I had just met tried to on me at the top of a play structure. I was in shock and didn't really understand what was happening. It was someone I had just met, and every thought I'd ever had about romance and dating that would lead up to a moment like this went in the garbage. On the outside, it sounded like a story I could brag about. It dug a hole and planted a flag in my psyche that would haunt me. On 5 occasions since then, I found myself completely shut down, numb to the other person's touch. It was the child in me, still scared of being so vulnerable so quickly. And I still feel sorry for that child, But listen to me, you don't need to heal everything to be whole. You are already whole. But you might be living in the holes you've created for yourself, being consumed by fear, doubt, and an unwillingness to greet your shadows. Your flaws are part of your architecture, and you must learn to build with them. The goal of all this is integration, not perfection. Remember that your dark triad are a handful of your bricks too. Please find a place for them in your structure. Name your traits and begin to better understand yourself. See how your dark triad can serve you. They were born out of survival skills. Start at the beginning and then determine how you will lead them. Do not disown your dark side, but you must take care of it. All right, builders, see you every Sunday. And remember, growth equals shaking hands with the shadows that live in your darkness. Brick by brick, we'll get there. Valeu!